we haven't even started, and we're already getting into the serious stuff. It's like one of the things that I'm super excited about with decentralized technologies is the ability to have distributed databases that are not centralized to any particular what's the word I'm looking for, like any particular data center, and the implications of that technology becoming a reality at the same time that AI is becoming a reality is kind of mind blowing. You know,
Yeah.
are you messing around with anything in your building of AI? Are you messing around with anything as far as utilizing like decentralized databases or anything like that?
No, no. I mean, my space, it's mostly either it's
Yeah, this is all super new, so there's probably not very many people that are actually building it on those platforms yet.
yeah, it's either going to be right now. It's mostly centralized within a say a company's data center or data centers, and
Right.
or it's on a cloud platform like AWS or Azure or something like that. But
Right.
the
Right.
whole centralized,
Which is the a more decentralized way of doing it, but it's still basic, or actually, depending on how you look at it, I guess it's a more centralized way of doing it because everybody just has their all their information on AWS,
right? And they own
you
it.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, or Azure or whatever. So they have those, they have their disaster recovery plans and they have their backup data sites and stuff like that. But it's that removal of, I think it's going to be really crazy. There's a bunch of different, and I don't even want to say what like Web3 projects I'm looking at because the space is so new that like if I say it's this one or that one and people go out and buy them, they might go to zero because they're so new that I have no idea like which one is actually going to work. But they're currently building stuff that is functional and is working.
Hmm.
That is the ability to essentially everybody can participate in this decentralized database thing. So as the data um, basically the data is decentralized across everybody else's databases. They all have a piece of the other. They all have to confirm information the same way that you confirm any blockchain transaction. The thing that blows my mind is like I'm sure people are already working on it. I don't know who they are yet, but somebody is going to apply that technology to cryptocurrency or to AI and have their AI built off of these decentralized databases. And I think when that happens, we're gonna see some really cool stuff get built.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that.
so, but yeah, I'm trying to understand a little bit more, I guess, for myself about AI technology because one of the big macro investments that I'm in and that I am kind of telling people to look at. My main thing is not necessarily to tell people what to invest in; it's more to like describe to them what the situation is so that they can make their own decisions and then like go do your own research. But like one of the things that I'm super vested in is Nvidia. Obviously, it's gone up dramatically already, and there's a lot of people that have talked about how it's inflated and it's a bubble and it's going to go down. But it's like based on everything that I know about the AI world, it doesn't to me at all seem like a bubble. It seems like we have quite a long ways to go before Nvidia is going to run out of uh, basically their mode on the market because it doesn't seem to me that anybody else is competing in the space of making the GPUs that they're making. That like, it doesn't seem like anybody else can really hang with them. From
Yeah,
my perspective.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't see it myself.
Yeah, and the demand is only going up. I mean, I think that anybody who is saying that Nvidia is maybe overpriced or overvalued right now just doesn't understand the insane demand that is on the horizon like over the next 4 to 5 years. There's a lot of people that are still not using AI right now. That are they don't really know about it. They've maybe heard of Chat GPT or they've heard of some of these more production type models, but they're either not using them or just unaware, hopefully blissfully unaware, because
Yeah,
there's definitely some weird stuff coming out. Do you have any like production level, or I guess retail level AI products that you actually enjoy using or that you use for anything?
The big one is probably the same one that you use and a lot of other people use. It's obviously ChatGPT. I mean, that's
Right,
as
right,
a Q&A database, a Q&A assistant, right? So that one's really cool.
right, right.
Of course, is
Have you tried out several other ones at all?
I have not tried the other ones. I haven't really tried, like, say, Llama or, you know, some of the other
Yeah.
options out there. I mean, ChatGPT, obviously the first big kid on the block, and it
Right,
seems to be,
right. They definitely have like first mover
yeah,
advantage. They're better, it seems.
yeah,
I was actually just working with my um, with our back end coding team for my main job, and we were entirely troubleshooting all of our coding issues, asking ChatGPT questions like, "Hey, what's wrong with this line? Like, what? Why is this not working?" I was like, "That is the ability to have that." And I mean, it's pretty dang accurate. There's maybe a few things that it doesn't get right, but especially for just like checking your syntax or something, making sure that there's no issues with your syntax in your code or
right.
whatever it is. It's like, holy heck, the amount of time that it can do it in is crazy.
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's super beneficial and helpful. I mean, it's for sure going to be around at least for a while, right? I don't see why people wouldn't want to use it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so I know that there's definitely a lot of people who are. So there's a couple of things that I kind of wanted to talk about. One of the things that I'm a little bit worried about is people not understanding the technology and thinking things about it that are just not the case. One of the things that you said the last time we were talking kind of blew my mind was that AI doesn't really have the ability to reason across multiple domains. Um, and so I kind of wanted to like unpack that statement a little bit more
all right.
and like understand what it is that you're getting at with that so that people can really get a grasp of like what that means for the capabilities. Do you think it will be able to eventually?
Yeah, I think it'll eventually move in that direction. I mean, obviously, that's what a lot of
Yeah.
people are gunning for, especially with the whole AGI stuff, the artificial general intelligence. So that's it's very popular.
What is the difference? See, I'm here's where I'm less educated. What's the difference between like AGI and like the LLMs or the stuff that we're using right now?
So the stuff you're using right now is usually really good at one task or a very few tasks. But AGI is something that's more broad in general, where that's the stuff that you see in movies, where if you talk to an AI system or say something that's an AI rendition, like a robot or something like that, it can actually
Oh.
act like a real human in terms of it can actually talk about multiple topics and subjects. It can respond with emotion. It can think about the ethics behind something, the what's right and wrong.
Mm,
I mean, think of AGI as replicating an actual human right in front of you that you're conversing with or basically
mm,
interacting with. That's the main thing. That's the long term goal. I mean, I don't see that being here tomorrow or next year or maybe the next few years, but that's the
mm,
long term excitement for a lot of AI developers, scientists, is to create that type of capability. With all the AI stuff you have right now, they're very good at helping you and I maximize efficiency, optimizing our work.
mm,
That's the type of AI that we're basically being introduced to now, and that's basically taken off in the near term. Long term, though, imagine like a system, like let's say like a robot in your house that just instinctually, more so instinctually knows what to do, maybe to like keep your house
mm,
in good shape or form. Maybe it knows, oh, I can tell that the house needs this or that, and it can make decisions for you as if you're the person living there, beyond just like one single task. Not like a robot vacuum that says I need to clean up, but imagine a robot or an AI that knows, oh, when I need to clean, when I need to contact someone to maybe prepare for maintenance ahead of the home, or maybe I need to think about, oh, the impending weather might be an issue for, my landscaping or something. So imagine the
Right.
AGI having that general, wide intelligence that just knows how to think, how to decide, and how to behave, just like you would as a human.
Right.
That's basically the big difference.
Right. And that was the thing that I've been thinking. Ever since you said that, I've been thinking about that statement, and it's actually helped me to work with the LLMs a lot better
Right.
because I can understand those things. When I ask it a question, I can tell that if I ask it a somewhat complex question or something, it's not taking into account factors that it's not trained on, obviously, but it's also not taking into account factors that are things that I can pay attention to because I have cross reasoning capability across multiple domains. So for instance, if you ask it a financial question, it's going to give you the sort of, at least ChatGPT is going to give you the very boilerplate, like standardized. This is what traditional finance says about finances and says about money, but that particular thing is not trained on decentralized finance. It's not trained on all of the macroeconomic principles that I happen to know, since that's my space and that's what I know a whole lot about, and how all of the different factors cross with one another
Right.
in a max. So that's one of the things that I've been looking at is how it can't really answer macroeconomic questions because macroeconomics requires that you be considering multiple domains simultaneously. Um, so it seems like we're just not there yet. Maybe it will get there in the future, but that'll be necessary. The other thing that I was kind of interested in is the uh, the political slant of LLMs. Not necessarily political, because I don't want to talk about politics. But the other thing that you said was that AI doesn't have the ability to make moral decisions, and yet when if you ask it a question that has a particular I guess that has a particular I guess there's multiple different opinions on it, you can generally see it supporting one or another opinion more heavily, and that'd obviously be based on who trained the model and what information it's trained on. Or
Right. Yeah.
so if you were to train a model on both opinions, because I don't know it, like we're starting to get to where I don't really understand how it works, but if you were to give the model multiple different opinions, does the developer also decide which one it favors, or
The developer.
is that just not how it works? I don't really know.
Yeah. So, and to be very candid, I don't know 100% of how all of that works. So
Yeah,
though I work in the space because such a huge
it's
space, and it's
vast. Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
what's the latest and greatest. People are evolving it pretty quick. So
yeah.
what I say obviously may not be 100% all encompassing, or it may be accurate right now, but it may not be accurate tomorrow or next week or next month.
Right.
But in terms of your question of like how do you assess or evaluate whether the system knows what is morally right and wrong? A lot of that depends, like you said, if you give it different opinions, what's right and wrong, it really depends on the who's authoring the model or how you author what
Hmm.
you're training it. Just like if you're teaching someone, like if you have a student in a class of some sort and you're the teacher and you're saying this is the right way to do it, then they'll be trained to say, oh, they'll look for that right way to do it. Versus a different teacher is going to
Right.
say, well, the right way to do it for our class is do it this way. The technique may be a little bit different, what the end result might be a little different, but however you train that student, or in this case, the model, it's going to learn from that. And of course, moral right and wrong is a matter of perspective too. And it's like a lot of people say it's like relative, right? I mean, what's right and wrong for you and I
Right.
might be the opposite in a different culture, a different country, or a different group of individuals, different subpopulation. So it really depends on how you author it, and that's why a lot of companies right now their AI governance and is a big thing. Like because of all these models, when you train them, you can obviously if you tell a model to select who is the maybe the best person for the job. I mean, there was a big problem with that with
Yeah, yeah,
not too
yeah.
long ago. It was like being trained when it found certain people within the population that were more likely to succeed. And I won't say names, obviously, it's probably not a good thing, but you can Google it and find
Right,
it. But how you train it, right? What you tell it to look for, whether advertently or inadvertently, will that moral discussion will come into play. So, anyways, that whole AI governance thing, which is it's a big thing right now, it's a lot of companies need to decide whether their model is, say, is it lawful? Is it fair? Is it transparent? Is it
right,
accountable? And how do you decide if it is all that? It depends on what you train it on, how you teach it.
right,
But yeah, it's a big cloudy area. It's a big gray area. I mean, because what's right in the United States might be not right in another country. What's right in another normal in
right,
another country,
right,
might be not right for us. How we live, how we live. I'm sure an AI system being trained in the United States is much different than our opposing counterpart countries in other parts of the world, where they may say, "Oh, that's okay to train the AI to say that's morally correct," because to them that's fine.
right, right. When it may have, hmm.
Yeah, that's a big.
Yeah, that's interesting. I imagine China is not going to have their AI be nearly as restricted as we'll have in America.
Right, right. So
If recent history surrounding drone technology has given us any insight into that, I don't know if you are up on drone technology, but China is pretty much kicking the heck out of us. The FAA basically killed the drone industry in America, unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. So hopefully that changes. The new admin coming in the next.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know some of these things, and I keep trying to launch ChatGPT because I was going to ask it some questions so that I could kind of point out what I was doing, but for whatever reason I can't launch it. I keep getting issues with it. But like I was asking it, questions earlier today, and especially in the industries where words unfortunately don't mean what they really ought to mean. That's where I see some potential issues coming up in at least the current versions of these language models. Um, but it's interesting to me if it's like, is that a failing of the technology fundamentally? If is that's a thing that we can get around? But I was asking it questions earlier um, about the Fed, the raising of interest rates, what that means for the economy, things like that. And I thought it was really, really interesting the way that it answered, um, because it answered in the way that um, I guess national news would answer, or it's very much like a CNN or a Fox News type answer, not politically slanted one way or another, but I just thought that it was interesting when it comes to the financial information that it was sort of talking about these independent agencies of the government, like the BLS, and their the way that it presented how the BLS comes up with the consumer price index was like very favorable to the BLS. Um, but I think that's mainly just by the nature of how those things are named. Like it's an independent agency. It's an independent agency, but I mean, ChatGPT added that it's based on like it's an independent agency in order to create. Uh, oh gosh, what did it say? It's an independent agency in order to create like a check or a balance against the government or something like that. And I was like, well, that's interesting because the BLS is hired by the government, funded by the government, created through policy, and yet is still an independent agency. So um, just certain things about the way that you know, the way that it deals with some of those kind of stranger topics. is very interesting, and so I wonder a little bit about the amount of power that that gives maybe banks, the government, or large businesses like Facebook or YouTube or something of that nature. What level of power does that give them to kind of control the narrative surrounding certain topics when everybody is using this as their main system of learning?
Right. Yeah, it goes back to who's authoring it, right? And what
Right,
your how you program or how you train that model, how you code it to decide what it should return back to a prompt. Does it go by
right,
what's the most popular web search hit? Because obviously, I mean, ChatGPT is just looking on the internet, just doing what you and I would do. It's probably looking at the
right,
top return results on a say a Google search, and it's going to pick the one that the first top three or four, or the first page that comes up, and it's probably going to regurgitate.
and amalgamate the top 3 or 4 search results and put those into a somewhat of a response.
Yeah, that's or and maybe go after some. It's either something like that, or maybe what it deems to be the most popular thread, that type of a question. Like if a thread for some reason
Yeah,
has a million reads and a million views based on that same question versus one that has 1,000, it's probably going to repeat the one that has a million and use that answer. Same like if you were talking to Alexa at home or something like that. Oh, I found this from a Alexa
right,
contributor. It's going to pick the one that's most popular, or maybe there might be something behind the scenes. I don't know. I don't obviously work for the company that builds the models, but they may have a ranking system that decides what they decide to show you. Maybe they have a score of the website of where they're pulling it
right,
from, like what's the private or trustworthiness score, right, for a site. I'm sure there's lots of third party or organizations
right,
that build
right.
that site. It's how, what's its rating, and it maybe ChatGPT's program or code, which I don't know, probably is though, to give you back an
Mhm.
answer that's coming from a more reputable source.
A more reputable
Yeah,
source.
some,
That's I think that's the thing that I worry about with the LLMs is that those sources are not necessarily cited right up
yeah,
front. Maybe that's something that they will create in the future. And some of the sources, when I've asked ChatGPT for cited sources, or Grok, or what's the other one? Claude was the other one that I was using the other day. When I've asked them to cite their sources, a lot of the times they will cite sources that don't exist,
mm,
or that are not real. And what the model is doing is it's grabbing an amalgamation of words from other citations and then adding it uh, into the conversation. So it doesn't necessarily get, even ChatGPT, as advanced as it is, doesn't necessarily understand the citation of sources on like a paper or something like that.
right.
So yeah, that's interesting. What was one of the other things we talked about last time? Um, you were kind of talking about last time we talked a little bit about like how people in the trades, or somebody who has a small business would be able to kind of use AI to get ahead. Could you kind of describe that again, since we didn't post the last conversation?
Yeah, so a small business owner, let's say you're a service provider for whatever it might be. Maybe you sell, a monthly or a weekly service that provisions some type of home remodeling or home upkeep service. You pick your domain or what that might be. But maybe as a small business owner, you need to quickly draft a service contract, right? So you can obviously do something
Mm-hmm.
as simple as that using an LLM or a chat GPT or a similar model. Say, draft me a document, a service agreement document, just as a base template so that I can work on it. Here, insert these parties into the relevant sections and it can produce that for you. Or maybe you know, you
Mm-hmm.
you're a you're a small business owner and you need to create a purchase order with a supplier. And you need to, put together a contract, or maybe you are looking for maybe suppliers for your business, and so you want to put together an RF request for proposal. And you want something that looks
Mm-hmm.
professional, or a proposal that's relevant to a particular industry or particular geographic region, or maybe in a particular language. Maybe your suppliers
Right.
overseas in other countries, that's where your manufacturing's at. So you need something that's in that local language that looks very similar that they can relate to, you know, and it's
Mm.
written in this syntax or a, well, not syntax, we're talking code here, but in a,
Right, right, right. But yeah, it's written in the correct language for that
yeah,
industry. So I actually did this with my I have a clinical psychotherapy practice.
all right,
And one of the things that I used it for was in the application process to the insurance, to get our rate raised. The way that insurances pay out is they have a flat rate based on your company and how long you've been doing business with them and how many people you've served and all of this other stuff. And you have to put in a formal request for it to be your rate to be raised so that you can continue actually doing business and try to make some money. Not a great business, the psychotherapy world. More of a labor of love type thing
yeah.
than a money making endeavor. Um, but we do got to make money and we got to scale and we got to grow. And I think it took me 5 minutes to put in that proposal.
Yeah.
When they told me it needs to be this long and it has to include these things and it has to include these things and Chat GPT that one. Like
So
that's
there you go.
I'm not writing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the thing you can do
So
as a small business owner. But you can also use it every day, and you've already been using it, I'm sure. And
oh
when
yeah.
you're even as a person for personal use, like if you're shopping for something, you know, or you see something out there in the world that you like a product or an item, whether it's a piece of clothing or maybe a tool or maybe
Yeah.
a part for a piece of machinery or a vehicle or a motorcycle or something that you don't know what it is. Just do it. Use an image recognition program. You know, of course, Google has a reverse image search. That's very simplistic, but and it works. But you
Yeah.
can. There's lots of free, freemium type um, apps that you can use,
Yeah. See, I haven't actually used any of that yet.
and you can quickly
That's
identify
interesting.
what product, what type of product it is, what category. So you can look that up, and that's basically uh, you know, basically AI vision, right? So that's basically recognizing
Right.
what something looks like and it identifies something on the internet that matches that. So very similar, and you can even use it for, I mean, AI for diagnostic intents and purposes. Obviously, the medical big
Right.
one where does this image look like it's basically something very similar to perhaps a particular ailment or cancer or disorder, and they use it for
Mm.
that on the very critical end. But for you and I, you can do something like that too. I mean, if you want to scan something every day and to see if something on a part on a piece of machine is starting to break down or it doesn't look normal, the wear and tear it's gone through its X% of its effective useful life, then maybe that AI
Hmm.
program can tell you, oh, this thing looks like it's degrading from where it should be, or something like that, right?
Right. Right. So from uh like a production
Yeah.
engineering perspective, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that either.
Even if if you're handwriting stuff and you want to upload like scan PDFs and all that, or scan written documents and
Right.
transcribe it to, a digital
Into
piece.
something that's like text editable uh type of a document.
I mean, what if someone wrote
Yeah.
something for you on a notebook in the field? Let's say you're a service provider in the field, you're taking notes, and you want to transcribe that really quick and upload it to your centralized or decentralized database. Just do an image
Right.
recognition program. It can transcribe that immediately to digital text with a certain percent of accuracy, and then boom, it's done. You don't have to hire or do it yourself and type something up for a few minutes or pay someone X dollars per hour. Scan it. If you get 95% of it right, that might be good enough for you. And then you can upload to the database and
Right.
you're done. So lots of ways you can.
Yeah, for a lot of purposes, that's great.
Yes.
I've definitely used it for so one of my therapists are also using they're using language models that will listen to their session
All right.
and then they have to write very detailed medical notes on the
All
section
right.
when they have a therapy session. And so they're using one that will listen to the session and get, again, usually 97, 98% accurate, all of the specific details of the therapy session that they need to put in so that we can put in claims. So that's been pretty cool. I also use a much less advanced meetings application to take notes on my meetings.
All right.
And just so that I can remember, I have so many that I have to go in and the next time I talk to them, I have to go in and try to remember what we talked about last time, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's interesting. What's the most interesting way of prompting a language model or any AI that you've come across? Can you think of like one that stands out as like, man, that was a really unique prompt or a unique subset of processes to come to that conclusion?
I don't know if I've seen or experienced anything that's very unique in terms of a prompt. Maybe other people have, but for me,
Oh,
it's using the prompts is really it's an art really, because the question you
yeah,
ask, how you ask the AI system is obviously pretty important, as you know this, and a lot of people probably watching, listening to this would agree and they've experienced. But probably from an interesting point of view, the more detail obviously you can give the prompt, and the
yeah,
more specific your prompt is, and when you give an example of what it is that you want in response, and you
yeah,
also in your prompt inform the AI within your prompt, perhaps where to look for information or to gather something, that's when things get really interesting. So right now, a question of asking things about, say, related to governments and agencies or something like that, and it regurgitates something that
yeah,
sounds like, very, you know, kind of boilerplate, sounds like something like the official
right,
authority would say. Maybe in that prompt, if you repeated that prompt, but you added to it saying, respond to me in everyday, you know, non authoritative, non technical language.
right. One of the things that I do is I'll say what are the criticisms,
Yeah.
so that's I'll say, hey, what is the BLS, what is the Fed, and it'll spit out this thing that is very pro big government, very much trying to support how like it said I think a couple of times that the economy was experiencing massive deflation, and so the Fed came to the rescue and uh, increased interest rates. It actually said that, and so I'm like, wow, that's crazy that it's like it has this opinion. And so the next thing that I asked it was what are the criticisms of that opinion? And then it came back with, oh, well, raising interest rates is actually bad for a lot of reasons also, and like here's the pros and cons. And so I was like, okay, well, you didn't tell me that initially, right? So there's certain things like that where you have to make sure that you're prompting it, and but like somebody who didn't know, like I think the thing for me with the language models is it's not so much about teaching me things that I don't know. It's memory recall. So for me, I'll get on and I'll say, or I'll go to write my book. I'm using it a lot to write my book right now, and I know the outline of the book that I'm going to write. I know the structure. I know what I'm going to talk about next,
All right.
and I'll start talking about it, and I'll be like, man, what year was it that one thing happened, and I can't remember the precise details of Enron and their like what exactly they were doing, but I remember Enron was a bad thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'll type back in like, okay, hey, what was it exactly that Enron was doing? Is like, oh, like so and it'll kick out to me this was the thing, and then I'm like, I remember this whole thing now, and then I'll go ahead and write the story. Um, and then obviously go back through and edit and have like actual individuals that can do the fact checking and making sure that the dates are accurate and things of that nature. But for just getting it out onto the page when I need a quick memory recall, um, ChatGPT has been super helpful for that. The craziest way of prompting ChatGPT that I have yet come across is a friend of mine started asking ChatGPT, he would say, type into it, ask me as many questions as you need to, one at a time, in order to provide me with this answer. So it would be something to the effect of like, let's say we're doing a marketing campaign, Um, he would say, ask me as many questions as you need the answers to give me a full marketing campaign plan. And then one at a time, it would come out and ask him, well, what's the name of your business? What's the market? What's the demographic? What's the, you know, who is it that you're trying to hit? How are you trying to communicate with them? All this, it would ask him all those questions, and then it would kick out this entire plan. Okay, so what you really want to do is you need to have a YouTube presence and you need to have a Facebook presence, but you also want to get on LinkedIn. And here's what you put on LinkedIn versus here's what you put on YouTube versus. So I was like, I thought that was really interesting because a lot of the times people have difficulty coming up with the prompts because, like you said, you have to be very specific with the prompt. The more specific you can be, the better. But I thought that was a really intelligent way of coming up with that is like tell the AI to ask you the questions that it needs the answers to in order to give you a good answer. And I did that quite a lot when I was doing, I made a couple of AI videos and I would go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I want to come up with a good prompt for an AI video. Ask me as many questions as you need one at a time until you can put one together. And it would kick out one question at a time and we get to it. So I thought that was a super interesting way of approaching it as far as prompting goes.
I I haven't
Um,
heard of that one before, but that's actually pretty good. Ask me as many questions as you need to get me the answer that I'm asking for. That's pretty good.
right, right. So my brother gave me that one. So I'm gonna be doing a podcast with him tomorrow. So um, we'll see. We'll see if he has any more nuggets. So yeah, the different ways that it can go are pretty intense. I think I'm way less after talking to you about it the last time and this conversation. I think I'm way less I guess worried about the AI. I think there's a lot of nonsense on the internet surrounding oh we should all panic because AI is becoming a thing. Um, and I think I'm much less worried about it now as far as oh people are going to lose their jobs or people are going to this is going to be the end of the world and nobody's going to know what a human even is anymore. Sensationalist nonsense that you hear on the internet. I am definitely less pessimistic about it as I used to be. Having talked to you about it. However, I still don't think that I'm as optimistic about it as you are. I think there's still going to be some negatives. Um, and I don't know if you have a perspective on that. What are the negatives that could potentially come out of this becoming a ubiquitous technology and everybody using it all the time?
Probably the biggest negative is for people who think that it's not there to help them, and they actually don't use
Mm-hmm.
it, and they end up falling behind because other people in their field or whatever they do, whether personal or professional, use it to their advantage, but you don't, or they don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's I would probably rate it as like I can't remember. I read somewhere earlier today that someone said that AI is like the new electricity. I think it's Andrew. I forgot his last name. He's big into AI, but I think he said something like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, AI is the new electricity." So to me, for someone who's really a naysayer about AI, would be akin to someone when electricity is first invented saying, "I'm not going to use electricity. That could really hurt someone." It's true. It can really hurt someone. Sure,
Mm-hmm.
it can
Yeah,
really disrupt society, which you're right, it did. But also, it could power
yeah,
society in new ways and evolve, take mankind or the world into the next evolution of you know its development. That's basically what happened. So AI is pretty much the same thing as far as what I see. Yeah, of course,
yeah.
it can be very dangerous. Yeah, it can be very powerful.
I was gonna say you don't see it as maybe a next like we've seen all of the social fallout from social media being invented as a technology.
Yeah, yeah, that's all.
And I feel like that if we see a similar trajectory in AI as far as how the speed of the rate at which ideas propagate in society now seems to be faster than our brains can handle it. based on how social media works, and I feel like AI is potentially going to be gasoline on that fire. Um, as far as the rate at which ideas propagate through society, you can see kind of throughout history as a I kind of get into my area, which is more psychology um, and philosophy and stuff. The rate at which ideas propagate through society, when a bad idea comes into society, it used to take, I mean, maybe this is a good thing, maybe it's not a good thing. It used to take 10 to 20 years for a bad idea to die out. It would die out with the previous generation. Um, it would also take 10 to 20 years for a bad idea to destroy a civilization, like, or 100 years maybe for a bad idea to destroy a civilization. Um, Now it seems like the rate at which those ideas propagate through society is much, much, much quicker. We'll have, immediately we'll have this massive problem that wasn't really even a problem 4 years ago, even, and then it'll either immediately die out or it'll cause mass hysteria across the country. Um, do you? I I guess do you have any thoughts about that, or have you thought about that? What rate AI will potentially accelerate the propagation of ideas, whether good ideas or bad ideas?
Actually, I haven't given much thought into that, but now that you mention it to me and I'm listening to this, I have to agree with you. It's obviously going to help propel
Yeah.
information and ideas moving through, you know, people's mind space much
Right.
quicker. I mean, that's basically what it's designed to do. It's supposed to make us
Right.
work more efficiently, quicker, more optimally. So yeah, that's just a natural thing that is going to happen. Is that a bad thing?
Hmm.
Is that a good thing? I think it's
Well, it depends on what ideas we propagate, right?
yeah,
Like that's I think that's the thing is it if just like what you said is it's like electricity, and it's like, can you do some crazy and spectacular and awful things with electricity? Sure. You could also do some crazy and spectacular and amazing things with it. And I think social media is the same thing. I worry about some of the third and fourth order consequences of AI that we aren't aware of yet, or that we can't conceive of yet, because again, we still can't even conceive of what it's capable of doing.
right.
Um, And so I worry about those things in the same way that I worry about the third and fourth order consequences of social media, and people not being prepared for that. I think AI may have consequences similar to that we just can't see. So it's interesting, but I used to be more in the camp of uh, everything is gonna be the end of the world and nobody's gonna have a job, and uh, everything is falling down, until I started talking to you about it. Now that I've had a couple conversations with you about it, I'm like, it's probably gonna be more like the social media thing. Like, we'll freak out for a little bit, and it'll definitely cause some problems, but people will figure out how to manage it, and we'll get on with our lives, and and it'll be something cool and exciting for us to live through.
Yeah, yeah. It's obviously it's that next big revolution between what the industrial revolution, et cetera, the internet revolution, moving on. AI
Right.
set is where we're at right now. And what you said earlier, like about half an hour ago, about decentralized databases, even finance, a lot of that.
Right.
When I think about it, maybe when you think about it, that's when you really think, peel the layers back into that statement, that concept. In many ways, that's a good thing for AI because a lot of people are concerned with, oh, what if AI makes all the decisions and it makes bad ones, right? A lot of people have that
Right.
crazy. Some people have those fear, like, oh, machines taking over. But if you have a decentralized network, then
Right.
you don't keep all the power in one spot. How can one AI really control the whole system? If it's all decentralized, then in a way that actually makes it safer because the power is flattened out. It's not controlled by one entity.
Right.
So there's a lot.
So hopefully that's the direction that we go. I think there's a lot of people that have in particular interest in keeping the system centralized.
Yeah,
Um, but there's, I think, more people that are interested in having it decentralized. So I'm really interested in seeing the convergence of those two technologies when Web3 and AI really start converging and becoming, I guess, becoming one, or when we're able to apply the Web3 or the blockchain idea and utilizing the decentralized databases to train AI models, and that becomes the norm rather than having these centralized systems, then I think that will be spectacular
Right.
for society, and God knows what we'll even be able to build with it. It's
Right.
nuts. Last thing that I'm going to say, and then I'll let you go. I appreciate you coming on with me. Um, Somebody that I talked to actually 4 years ago, as we were kind of getting super deep into the cryptography and into the decentralized finance world, somebody said, you know, it sucks that we were born too early, or we're born too late to explore the world, and we're born too early to explore the galaxy. But we were pretty much born at the perfect time to explore the internet and the capabilities of networking. And I was like, we really were. Like, if there wasn't a better time in all of history to like explore this entire universe that can live in your computer. So I'm pretty stoked about a lot of the things that are coming out, and you know, hopefully through talking with people like yourself and um, uh, through getting more eyeballs on the idea of decentralization and focusing on the problems of the centralized system. The centralized system is sort of what gave us um, the unfortunately abhorrent governmental financial system that we have currently. It gave us a lot of problems with education, which is why so many people are not going to college anymore, not going and getting their degrees anymore, is because of the centralization of the education system. Centralization of the banking is atrocious and is really causing a lot of problems. And the centralization of information we've already seen with social media and things of that nature obviously causes a ton of problems. Um, so yeah, so hopefully we can at least figure out how. I don't have any ideas that we're gonna maybe grow that big to where I'll be like changing the world or anything, but hopefully I can at least get a community of people around, and we can put our money in the right place in the right location so that we can make some money off of all the changes that are happening. That's the goal.
Yeah, just identify those trends and try to stay one step ahead of it, and you should be able to make something off of it.